Hi, as you all know, I love the old boot cells, and this unit turned up, which I'm very grateful. As a lot of you know, modern cars tend to have microprocessors in them. The audio systems, the radios, they have coded numbers that have to go in before they'll work. Lots of things like that which rely on the battery always being connected and providing enough juice to keep these electronic things going. Now the problem is, if you ever take the battery out to be charged, and they say it's advisable to actually disconnect the battery before charging, you're going to lose all the info. And the radio normally has a code which you would put in, but where do you find the code? They tie it up in such a way that you've got to go to a main dealer, pay through the nose to have the charge, to have it reinstalled on the radio. There's a possibility that the original number won't exist anyhow. So to overcome this, I intended to had to pick one of these up for a long time. And yesterday, yesterday, at the boot cell, this turned up. As you can see, the light's working, which at the time it didn't. It was just sitting there. There was no power lead with it. That was missing. Just that sat on the side. So I looked at it, I thought, I don't know, I could use that because that'd be a handy item to have at home, ready, because I don't use the car too much, and there is a chance where if it's left without being run, the battery in the car could run down, not sufficient to knock out all the electronic stuff, but so it wouldn't start. So I thought, right, if I was to get that, if it's at the right price, you can see the back, the two cables which you would connect onto the battery. If by any chance the battery had run down enough that I couldn't start the car, the theory was that I could slip this on, connect it up, and that would give me enough juice to just get the car started. These are normally quite expensive. Oh, by the way, I probably won't use it, but at the back you've got an additional air pump for the tyres, which is quite noisy, but that, as far as I'm concerned, probably won't get used because I have got a proper pump that runs off the car battery. There's also, as I showed you, you've got a light on this, so if you're in a dark place you've got a light, and you've got sockets there which are the standard socket as you would find in a car, the old cigar lighter or the auxiliary. You've also got a set of LEDs which, if you press that button there, you will bring them up. Red, yellow and green. The green has gone off, meaning the battery's slightly gone down. Next to it you've got the charging port. Anyhow, I picked this up. I thought, well, I wonder how much he wants for it. It's a boot cell when all's said and done. So I said, oh, how much is your charger? He said, £10. I said, £10. I said, I bet the battery's no good. So he looked at me. He said, what will you offer me? I said, I'll give you £3, which I knew he wouldn't accept. So he come back, he said, I said, well, make it 5. He said, I'll take 6. Okay. So I got it for £6. The charger also appeared at the boot cell on the same day. It just happens to be the right voltage and everything. So I got that, and that goes in there. Well, it wouldn't charge up using the charger. The battery was in such a poor state that there just wasn't enough juice there to even start to charge it, and it was as flat as the proverbial pancake. So I took the back off this unit, whipped the battery out. It's a good sturdy lead acid, and looked at it. I thought, I don't know, I was just about to bin it actually, and I thought, no, I'll give it one more chance. Well, I've got a power supply unit in the shed which I can set between 0 volts and it's either 50 or 60, and it gives a readout of the voltage and of the amperage consumption. So, you know, if I put something across it, it will show the amps or the current. Anyway, I connected the battery up to it, switched it on to about 14 volts, and nothing at all. The battery was completely dead. It wouldn't even take any juice flowing through it. The amperage was 0. So I thought, oh well, it's probably no good. Well, let's have a little try. So I wound it up, and at about 60 volts PD onto the battery, I was getting a slight reading. Be it a low reading, but it was there. And by watching it, it was slowly creeping up. So you were in milliamperes and it was slowly creeping up. So I thought, I'm in with a chance here. So I gently watched what I was doing, because I did not want the battery to get hot. If the battery gets hot, you may as well sling it, because it'll be completely ruined. Anyway, I watched it, and the current slowly went up. And as it went up, I reduced the voltage. Well, to cut a long story short, got it down to 14 volts, which is a good charging rate. On a 12 volt battery, normally you would think of probably 13.5 volts to 14. It has to obviously be above 12. To charge on 12 it won't work. It has to be actually a volt or two above the output of the battery. Anyhow, I set it up, and it gave, it was about between 1 and 2 amps. So I thought, it's obviously taking some juice in. So I left it on charge that evening. Occasionally went down there with a 12 volt headlamp bulb and just went across it to see if it was charging, and it was. I thought, right, okay. So I left it on overnight. So it was being trickle charged at 14 volts. A maximum up to 3.5 amps, which is what I've set on the other power supply unit. So it would never go above that kind of current. So I wasn't going to cook it, and I left it on. In the morning, I had a look at it, and the current had gone right down low to a few hundred milliamps, if that. I thought, blimey, I don't believe this. This is what you would expect to find on a virtually brand new battery when it was fully charged. So I whipped it off, refitted it back in the case. I thought, well, that's going to save me a bit of money, and that's where I am today. And what I'm doing now is to just see how long the little light will work on there. Having charged the battery up, it's good to cycle them. That means to run them down, not completely out, but to run them down, then charge them up again. Whatever you do, never keep it on charge permanently, because that will cause the plates to sulfate. The plates are made of lead. You've got 2 types of plate, whether they're on this or not. You've got what's known as a planté plate and a Tyre plate, depending on negative or positive. They were the 2 types of plates used in the early accumulators. Now, what happens if they're not used, or the overcharged plates become sulfated? As the name suggests, sulfur, because the acid in it is sulfuric acid, which that is where your sulfur radical comes from. And obviously, by charging what I did at 60 volts starting off, it was able to break through the sulfated plates, and by gently trickle charging it brought it back up to scratch. But as I say, if they're left uncharged, or they're charged and not controlled, in as much as I say that they're turned on and it's just kept on, so they're being charged the whole time, both cases bad. Charge them up, unplug it, put it to one side, check it in a week or so's time, or whenever you think you may need it on the car. What I do, if I'm saying to myself, right, that car hasn't been used for a while, tomorrow I want to jump in the car and go up to Yorkshire, say, I want the car to work. So I'd put this on charge with the charger, plug it in, the first LED lights up to say that it's being charged. Leave it on overnight. By the time the morning's ready, that is going to be fully charged, and if it's needed, it can be used. Also, a point about these, if at any time you had to take the old battery out of the car, say the battery was virtually run out, you can connect this up to the terminals, so once you take the old battery out, you've still got a voltage on the terminal, so anything reliant on a voltage, be it only necessary to be a few hundred milliamps, just to keep the electronics going, then by doing that you connect up to the thing, so you take the battery off and you've got no worries about losing voltage while the battery's out. So you'd obviously get the new battery which had been pre-charged, put it in, connect it up, then take your two leads off. That way you've saved your coding on the radio and your electronics on the little mini computer that could be in there. Anyhow, I've talked long enough. Any questions please ask, any comments, good or bad, please make. Please subscribe. Thanks again for watching. Thank you.